On today's episode of The Journey, I get to sit down with Brad Luttrell, the co-founder and CEO of GoWild. We talk about the similarities in our childhood, how the love for the outdoors and the lack of knowledge, and we talk about the lack of knowledge on the journey. That's what this is about. It's about passing on knowledge. It's about gaining knowledge. It's about becoming better hunters, better houndsmen. How that lack of knowledge inspired him for the idea of the GoWild platform. We talk about his childhood in Harlan, Kentucky. And guys, when you talk about the Appalachian area and the Appalachian region, when you say Harlan, Kentucky, that is the heart of Appalachia. I live on the outskirts of it compared to where Brad was raised. We go over the GoWild app, and basically everything on the app allows you to gain points. And when you gain points, you gain discounts. And we also go over how we share our knowledge with other hunters. How we can go into, we log time in the field, good or bad, and how to spread that knowledge with others. And guys, you don't want to miss the ending. Brad talks about a big event in Louisville this summer. It's called the Send It Slam It event. And all the stuff that they've got going on with that event, it would be such a great weekend trip for your family. And if you listen to the end, he'll tell you how to unlock the discounts for the tickets. Talks about the concert and all the people that's going to be doing the concert. It's just going to be a good time in Louisville, Kentucky in July. So sit back and let's enjoy this journey. Guys, on today's journey, I'm going to take a little trip down 460 west. We're going to travel up 77 north and go through all the toll roads that we hate paying for. And we're going to hit 64 west, right into the heart of Louisville, Kentucky. And today we are with the co-founder and CEO of GoWild. Brad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
We're glad to have you on. We're excited. We're excited to be a part of the GoWild family.
Yeah, dude, you guys have been an awesome addition into this. For so long, I've had some early hounds guys who've said, man, we got to get more on here, and you guys have done it. It's been awesome seeing all these houndsmen come into the platform.
Yeah, and I mean, there's such an array of hound hunters. I mean, you've got your big game hunters, and then you have your deer hunters and your coyote hunters and your beagle guys. I mean, there's a lot of different things that take place with the hounds.
Yeah, and I'm still learning a lot of these new things too. There's some things that people have reached out about, and we're pretty receptive on GoWild feedback. You guys probably saw, like, we added the treat and feed for bears, for example, when you log your trophy. So we're still learning a lot of the things that we can do better to serve this audience. But that's one of the fun things about GoWild is you get to be a part of adapting it.
Yeah, I mean, and it gets the people involved when they have some input and they can make suggestions, and you guys go in and tweak things and make it better. So yeah, I mean, it's a great thing. Like I said, I've been using the app for probably a month and a half now. Well, yeah, since spring turkey season come in, so early April, so 2 months, and I'm still learning. And today, like I said, hopefully we can go over some of that stuff today, and you can help me, help our listeners be able to navigate the app and everything. But first, I kind of want to go back to, I know you're from Cumberland Gap, which Darius Rucker made famous in his song, if people don't know where it's at, right?
Yeah. Yep.
The wagon wheel. Yeah, so tell me a little bit about, your childhood growing up, your love for the outdoors, because, we're all doing stuff in the outdoors, no matter what it is.
So I have to put an asterisk on my Cumberland Gap intro. I did grow up in the Cumberland Gap, but on the Kentucky side. I did not was not in Cumberland Gap, Tennessee, but I grew up in the most southeastern corner of Kentucky. And my parents' house where I grew up, which they still live there, is about half a mile as a crow flies from Tennessee. So, we can be in the Cumberland Gap in 6 minutes by car. I was born in Harlan County, grew up in Appalachia, and love Appalachia. Still going back. I got family there. But yeah, man. So yeah, I'm sorry. I got all excited about clarifying my Cumberland Gap, and now I'm excited about talking about where I'm from. What was the question? Was how did we get started?
Well, just tell us a little bit. What brought you into the outdoors? I mean, I've been through Harlan County. I've been through there. I know where you're at, and man, it's pretty straight up and down and a bunch of mining fields, isn't it?
Yeah, and my family's been there for about 150 years, as far as I know. So we've been through the coal mining strikes. My family was very involved in the strikes that made the county famous for Bloody Harlan.
Yep.
My great grandparents were, orchestrating a lot of that, and then my grandfather was in on the I think it was in the early 70s, the strikes that there's a documentary made on. Harlan County, USA. That was a famous documentary at the time. And, I used to love watching that film with my grandfather because he would tell me, oh, that's your Uncle Clyde, and he's holding my shotgun, or that's so-and-so that's getting the bath in the sink. He was there for the whole making of that film. Watching these documentary makers, kind of capture everything. So I grew up in that environment. As you said, it's mountainous, the old Daryl Scott song that has been covered by Brad Paisley, talks about the sun comes up at about 10 in the morning and goes down at 3. Yep. That's because you live in a holler, and people don't think of hollow, they don't know what that means, but it's essentially that you're in almost like a drainage, what they would call out west, and a lot of Eastern Kentucky, that's where these little towns are, or camps, as a lot of people call them where I'm from, because they were coal camps originally. So, growing up there, I was very interested in the outdoors, obviously. We fished a lot, bank fished a lot, cane pole fished, did a lot of small game hunting. My dad was really grew up loving the squirrel hunt. And that was my version of hunting growing up. I didn't whitetail hunt or anything, which is actually pretty critical to the story of GoWild that I didn't. But I loved off-roading. All growing up, my grandfather would buy me four-wheelers that he had found on the side of the road for sale or something, and he'd bring home some, beater four-wheeler that I would ride and crash into everything that you can imagine. And so, camping and all this stuff was really near and dear to my heart. And with I went off to college and I didn't do as much of this stuff. We camped some, but I didn't really hunt in college. Shot firearms a little bit, but and fished a little bit when I would go back home. But for the most part, doing the college thing, having that experience. And once I graduated, I moved to Memphis, and then I ended up moving to Louisville shortly afterwards. I wasn't really a fan of Memphis, and then started going back home. And when I started going back home, I started to get into deer hunting. And it's just very challenging and different than anything else I had done. And my dad didn't do it. He didn't know anything about it. So I was really on my own trying to find my way and navigate through that. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, again, this is kind of the kickoff to founding GoWild was, I thought I was outdoorsy, but when I started trying to learn this totally new thing, I'd read articles on outdoor life or whatever, and you buy the magazines at the store because it's 2014, right? Like the YouTube hunting content was not what it is today. And I get frustrated because I'd read something and I'm like, I don't even know what they're talking about. Like that, my example I always give to people just to help a deer hunter understand, like, play the wind. That is so obvious to a mature deer hunter what that means. But, when you don't know anything about deer hunting, you're like, well, what does that mean? Should the wind be blowing to my face? Should it be a crosswind? Should it, should be from behind me? Because the deer are going to come. Like, you don't know anything like that. Like, it's just like going waterfowl hunting for the first time. A first-time waterfowler would have no idea how to set up on the water or where's a good spot because they don't understand how the birds use the wind to land or to take flight, and all of this stuff, somebody that grew up around parents or grandparents teaching them this stuff, it almost feels innate. But when you start something for the first time, you have to learn this base level of knowledge that is mostly uncovered in most content. There's been some groups come along like the Hunting Public that have blown up on YouTube, and those guys do a pretty good job of covering some of this. Bo Martonic up in Pennsylvania does a fantastic job of trying to cover the really basics of deer hunting. And I think we've seen a really good movement to cover some of that. But at the ground floor, when in 2016, when I had the idea for the app, this stuff didn't exist, man. YouTube was not what it is today. I know it doesn't seem that long ago, but most of these big time players, like the Born and Raised guys, the hunting public, the Seek One guys, none of them were really going to come around to blow up for a few more years, right? It'd be years away before they would really start to come on the scene. Meat Eater was still in its first 50 episodes at this time. It was not as a podcast, it was not a Netflix original yet. So the content that was out there for digesting was not what it is. So my thought was, if I could build a platform that I could get to locals, right? That's the challenge, is finding locals, because I would spend time on forums and, I'm reading about deer hunting in Texas, and it's well, we don't have cactus. So this advice on how to get deer out of cactus is irrelevant to me. And so I wanted to be able to get to Kentucky hunters. And so that's really where a lot of the idea and concept came from founding the platform, was to, help people. I was I can't be the only person that wants to get better at something like this. So, right now, if you got into hound hunting, you could start with podcasts, but if you don't even know what podcasts to find, it's challenging, right? There's a lot of stuff you guys know that you have to learn along the way.
Yeah. I'm like, you're right. I mean, 5-6 years ago, the YouTube's not what it is now. And the podcast platform, I love to learn. That's part of this podcast and the journey. I love to learn, and there's always things that you can pick up from different people in different areas. And, I started listening to podcasts a couple of years ago, didn't know anything about them. And now I would say my drive time in my car, which, I'm in my car 12 hours a day at work. And, I would say 60 to 70% of my time is listening to podcasts. And
yep.
It's easy for me because my phone Bluetooths into my car. I can hit it on speaker and I can listen to it. I can still listen to my radios and everything else that's going off. But yes, it's a good platform, and I think that there's a lot of stuff out there for people to digest if they want to take the time to do it. So yeah,
yep.
And when you was talking about Harlan, and that to me, I live in the Appalachian Mountains too. I grew up. Well, just like you said, a stone's throw away from the West Virginia line. I could climb the mountain across from my house and be setting in West Virginia. I could literally do that. And, but when you talk about the area that you were raised, that is the heart of Appalachia. To me, I'm in the Appalachian Mountains, but you were raised in, that's what I see when people say Appalachian. It's down in the hollers. It's where the sun only comes up for 4 or 5 hours a day. And I know what you're talking about because I literally was raised kind of in the same type of environment.
People, especially, dude, pre-internet, growing up there was so different than even it is now. Now news travels a lot faster, but we did not have exposure to pop culture and music in the same way. You didn't have a lot of radio stations that you can access now with the internet and streaming, because the mountains, it's not like there was a big metro area that was pumping radio stations into Appalachia. I grew up 2.5 hours from the interstate.
Mm-hmm.
It would literally take 2.5 hours to get to an interstate. People, today, you're never that, 70% of the population will never know what that's like. I think 70% of the population lives in cities now.
Mm-hmm.
They'll never be 2 hours from the interstate. You go to Yellowstone, and now that's the touristy way you're talking about your trip. That's how people will experience that. But dude, Appalachia is so remote. A lot of people are shopping at convenience stores at a gas station because it's the only food near them for,
mm-hmm.
15 miles, which a 15-mile drive in Appalachia could take you an hour. So,
yeah, they've not had to come around those switchbacks and around those mountains and coming up out of places. Yeah. And, you're talking about your childhood too. Like I said, I was raised in almost, same type of environment you were in. We hunted and fished because there was nothing else to do. And I'm sure where you grew up, there wasn't arcades and theaters and bowling alleys and skating rings. We had to drive an hour and a half to get to those things if there was any that close. So we spent and we didn't have money either. I'm the oldest of 5 in my family. We spent our times in outdoors. That's how we passed the time. The parents kicked you out at 8 o'clock in the morning, told you don't come back until dark.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was like a nightly ritual for me, getting ticks picked out of my head.
Yeah. And, something that, maybe the listeners don't know about me, I do look, I mean, the hounds are my life. Dogs are my life. I do it at work and I do it when I'm at home. But I also have a couple other hobbies that I really, really enjoy. When you and I talked about it briefly just a little while ago, I love to fish. I have a jet boat that I'm on the river a lot. I love to fish for muskies. They're super, super hard to catch. And I like the challenge. I mean, I love the challenge. I'll bass fish when the muskies are spawning. And sometimes in the summertime when the water gets too hot, once the water gets over that 78 degrees, we try not to pursue the muskies too much because the water temperature's hot and they exert so much energy fighting that a lot of times they'll perish after you release them back into the water. So I'm very cautious about how I do that. I love to trout fish in the spring and the fall, but the fall time usually is tied up from chasing dogs. And I love to spring turkey hunt. I love chasing turkeys. It's like a chess match, and I lose more so than I ever win, but I just love being outdoors. And that's the thing that I really like about your app, the GoWild platform, is it allows me to do all those things. And a lot of the hounds guys, this will resonate with some of you guys. Like our season here in Virginia is very short. We have training season will come in the 1st of August, and it'll last until the last Saturday in September. And they did put in the 3 early days that we can hunt now, so we get 3 extra days there, and then we have the youth day. And then it comes in the first Monday after our rifle season goes out, which is usually the last Monday in November, the first Monday in December, however the calendar works. And we have 5 weeks. But during those 5 weeks to hunt, what people don't realize is, depending on the food source, depending on the weather, is the first 2 weeks, or usually the first week, you're trying to get your dogs back in a little bit of shape that you lost from September, and you're trying to the hunting pressures come in because the deer hunters come in, so you're trying to find the bear. So it takes a couple days to adjust, and then you have a week or two. But by Christmas and the first of the year, our season gets really hard. The bear most of them have laid, the sows have usually laid up, unless there's a really good food crop and the weather is mild. So even though I have 5 weeks to hunt, I have about 2.5 to 3 really good weeks, and then the rest of it's hit or miss. So our season in Virginia is really short. I do travel. I go to the coast and hunt a couple days here and there. I have some really good friends of mine in New York that I'll go up and spend, I try to take a long weekend and go Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and hunt. But that's just a couple days here and there. So you add the days that I travel to the coast or up north, I'm probably gaining a week or 2, maybe 2 weeks of hunting season, but that's the days that I'm missing actually here in Virginia when season's open because of the weather or work or whatever. So that's why I like to do the other things. I like being in the outdoors, and because of our laws and restrictions, I just can't have my hounds out on national forest in the middle of summer. I just can't do it. So yeah, that's something about me that maybe our listeners don't know about me, that dogs are my life, and I prefer those over everything. But at the same time, I do a lot of other things outdoors. I'm outdoors 80% of my time. It's either sleeping, working, or outdoors. So, all right. So tell us about your deer. Tell us about how that got you started. You said that was kind of the backbone of how this took off.
Learning to deer, I think people that have done it since birth practically don't understand how much they know. And so coming into it cold was really hard. You know, an example would be like, imagine trying to become a French chef and having no experience cooking, right? Like you go from eating like, you know, your drive-through meals to you have to prepare gourmet cuisine, and you got to do it in 6 months because that's when the season starts. That's the kind of things, like, that's kind of what it's like. And I was reading, you know, I'm reading these forums, and the environments are so different. You know, I've hunted in Texas, and it was like a culture shock. I might as well have gone to another country, which we forget, you know, because we're Americans and we're egocentric, right? Like we forget that the size of our country, you would travel through like 10 countries to cross the United States. It is so diverse. You know, where you're going to in Yellowstone is like, even in that park, you know, you have so many different types of environments. You know, you hunt, if you hunt in Texas versus Kentucky versus Nebraska, all three of those are going to be incredibly different scenarios for the same species. You know, I would have no idea how to approach, or wouldn't have, if I hadn't hunted with a guide in Texas. I wouldn't have known how to pull deer out of cactus, right? Like I totally had a different appreciation for feeders after hunting in Texas. I was like, oh my God, yeah, I get it. Like I get it why you guys are doing this. And in Appalachia, you know, a lot of you're hunting tight ravines, you're hunting in thick brush. I mean, I've hunted some public land stuff, dude, where you got like 10-yard windows. Because you get into all these magnolia trees and all this crazy stuff, and you know, the wind moves differently through these mountains, and you know, being able to predict that is tough. You're trying to learn from the Western guys who talk a lot about benches and saddles. Like, I think some of that applies in Appalachia, but the whole thing is just trying to apply the things you would hear on podcasts there didn't always convert very well. So I had this desire to find locals to get that advice. So the other thing that happened, and I think it's important to mention this too, 2016, again, I know it doesn't seem that far away, but it was a different animal. It was really a pivotal time in social media because a couple things were going on. You had the Trump-Hillary election, and that really, just like 2020 did again, sent people into a complete tizzy of combating, and that was really, to me, the year that we just kind of started to hate everyone on social media, and it was happening a lot to hunters. And you know, in 2014, I think I had posted a deer, and you know, kind of been harassed by one of my bosses, like, oh, do you feel like a man now? And so in 2016, I was scouting for a deer on the property I was going to hunt. I had a 35-acre property I'd gotten access to in eastern Kentucky, and was, you know, setting up cameras, doing the whole thing. And I got to thinking about it. I was like, man, I don't even know if I get a deer this year, if I even want to post it on Facebook. It's gotten so nasty. And just thinking that kind of made me think of like, wow, what a shame that you can love something so much but not be able to talk about it, right? Like, you guys get this on the housing side because you all get trolled like nobody's business. People really misunderstand what you guys do. And I got to thinking about it. I'm like, there should be a place where you could go and everybody gets it, right? Like, I want to be able to talk about this with context, without having to provide the context to other hunters or to other people on the platform. And so that thought, combined with the fact that really a powerful tool to be able to connect with locals, is what started the concept of GoWild. I remember in the exact spot I was standing in that field when it all hit me. It was August. I was hanging trail cameras. Or like checking on, I didn't have a cell cam at that point, and even if I did, there was no cell service, so it wouldn't have mattered. That, you know, I was going to get camera cards, and I remember coming down the hill, sweating my butt off because it was August in eastern Kentucky and super muggy, and standing there and had this realization of like, dude, this is crazy. How is this, you know, how it is? So I went home. I remember driving, like, literally by the time I got home, after thinking about it a little bit, I started researching. And, you know, if you're going to build a business, the first thing you want to do is make sure there's a market for it, right? And I had never thought of the hunting industry as a market. You know, I think a lot of people, again, this goes back to like how much things have changed since 2017, 2018, when like all these big influencers started showing up. People didn't think about getting sponsored in the same way they do now, right? Because it didn't feel accessible. You had to get sponsored, you had to go out and spend $250,000 making a hunting show and buy airtime on the Outdoor Channel. And, you know, it was like inaccessible. But now it feels accessible because it feels like anybody can go viral on YouTube and get famous. And that's not really how it works. But, you know, at that time, I wanted to make sure that there was a viable market out there. Again, I just like to hunt. I never thought about the hunting industry. So I started looking into that, and it was like, oh my gosh, you know, the hound guys get it because you all spend a ton of money.
Yes, like, it's a very expensive sport.
Yeah, you guys are up there, I'm sure, on the hunters who spend the most. But I started looking into it. I'm like, oh my gosh, not only is this viable, I can't believe that there's not been a successful company that's done it yet. Now, I'll quickly say that I did find competitors. We did not invent hunting social media or fishing social media. But what I saw that was out there was not good, man. I was in advertising. I was doing, I was a creative director working on accounts, building, you know, $250,000 websites and doing a lot of branding and digital advertising, working with, you know, pretty sizable budgets for the Midwest. And, I had enough of a skill set in building digital products that I said, I can do better than that. And I'd never built an app before, but I knew I could put the team together to do it. So I started putting the team together. Two of the guys I had worked with before, one of them actually was working for me at the agency. He was on my creative team that I led. And then he was a good friend of mine. So, you know, he kind of jumped on board first, Donovan and Zach, and then we found Chris. And by December, I did from idea in August to Thanksgiving is how long it took me to put together the founding team. You noticed when we met, you called me a founder, and I said, no, I'm a co-founder, because I couldn't have got this off the ground without these guys. I never would have been able to do it. I don't know how to do what they do, you know, and they need me to be able to do what I do. So we make a great team. And we honestly, man, with $500, some pizzas and beers in my basement, built this company. You know, we worked at night. I don't think anybody that's not done it you'll never be able to appreciate it until you try to make something out of nothing. You and Chris know what it's like to build a podcast audience out of nothing. You know, this doesn't just happen on its own. And that's where I think I kind of mentioned a minute ago. I think people think they can just become famous with one video. It's not how it works, man. You might go viral on TikTok once, but do it again. You know, try to replicate it. And building a business is very much like that. So, you know, we had to grind it out. There was a lot of times I'd put my son to bed. My wife works night shift, and I would work from 8 p.m. until 1 a.m. I'd get up at 5 a.m. and try to put 3 hours in before I went to work. And then I would take lunch calls for GoWild. And we did that for 18 months before we went full time with it. We launched the app in what's called a beta version, which is kind of like a test version for the public in 2017. And I went full time in 2018. And by the end of 2018, all the founders were full time, and we had hired our first employee, and we've been full speed ever since.
Yeah, that's great. I understand the business part of it. And I know the work that you've put into it, and how to keep things going and keep it successful. It's not an easy task for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because a lot of people join, and you know, we used to be an advertising model where we knew that you like to deer hunt, so we're going to serve you ads for deer hunting products. Like, it was very cut and dried, right? There's nothing creepy about it. Like, with a lot of these, like, Facebook is the ultimate creepy platform, because your wife looks at shoes on her computer, and now you're being targeted through IP targeting, and it's like trying to get you to buy the shoes that she looked at, right? And it's like, wow, are they listening to me?
Yeah.
You know, everybody gets creeped out by that stuff. It is creepy, dude. I've read all the books on this stuff, and we didn't do anything like that. It was very cut and dried. We didn't steal data from anybody else. It was, hey, we know this guy likes to bass fish, so we're going to advertise bass fishing stuff to him. Well, the model, you know, people would sometimes complain and say, well, I don't think there should be ads here. And it's like, look, man, you know, we're running a business that costs a lot of money to run a year. These servers cost money. These developers who build the app you love cost money. So we got to monetize it some way. And I never liked the ad model was fine because I knew advertising well. But I never like wanted to expand. I was always really an advocate for not having too many ads. I didn't want to have a feed full of ads. And so in 2020, you know, all the madness that was going on, it became a really bad year for advertising. You know, the outdoor industry got flipped on its head. All of a sudden, you had 30% more people fishing. You had 15% more people hunting at a minimum. And then the industry had 20% less product or 40% less product because the supply chain got decimated then, and it's still being decimated because of a result of COVID. And so all of a sudden, advertisers couldn't advertise with us. So we flipped the whole business model in 2020, and we actually are a retailer now. You know, you've seen our shop. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of your guys are buying the Garmin stuff through us. We can talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
But what I love about this is, you know, the platform now makes sense. It's right. Like, we are able to provide this service that we do as a social media company because people are choosing to buy through us instead of Bass Pro or Amazon. They're getting their products through us. And then we are able to donate 1% of those profits back into camps like Raise 'em Outdoors. Raise 'em Outdoors is a nonprofit camp that teaches kids to hunt, fish, and shoot. And so, really trying to make it a platform where you can feel good about sharing and being engaged.
Yeah. And, I want to touch on something you said just a few minutes ago about, the anti-world or the not understanding, however you want to put it. They do come after hunters, and hounds are a huge target. And if you know some of the laws that they're trying to pass throughout some of these states where, our dogs are outside and they're trying to make it where, if it's 32 degrees, I mean, I've got 14 dogs at my house. I'm not bringing 14 dogs inside my house. Like,
Right.
that's not an option. But, I do think it's very important, and I know you had talked about this before, on how we represent ourselves. And when we do post stuff on these social media platforms, that we do it in the best taste that we can.
Yep.
I know you had talked about that, and, staging your stuff, cleaning it up. Don't leave it laying in, the pool of blood. And just like the guides in Africa do, we need to take pride in what we're doing, and we have to be accountable and responsible for how we throw this stuff out there. And I hope the listeners will step back and say, yep, I can do better right there. And myself included. I don't post a lot of stuff on social media because of that. I don't want them attacking me. I don't want them attacking what I do, and I don't want to give them any fuel for the fire. So your platform allows us hunters and outdoorsmen, no matter what game we choose to pursue, it gives us a platform to be able to be proud of that deer, like you said, that you killed. And, if you take a trophy bear or, a mature spring gobbler, and the fit, I posted some trout. I caught my limit of brook trout and posted on there. So your platform gives us an opportunity to be proud of what we do without being attacked.
Yep. And the thing, real quick, if I can just add something to that, I've taken some flack in the past because people think I'm anti-grip and grin, and I'm not. I am pro share everything else that you do. Hunters are notoriously terrible for not telling the whole story. For example, deer hunters will often not post a damn thing until deer season has a dead deer on the ground, and that's the only thing people see. So when that's the only part of our story we tell, we can't really be mad when people call us murderers who are bloodthirsty and only care about death, right? Like, yeah, that's literally the only thing you've posted about hunting was a dead animal. So what do you think they're going to think, right? But if you talk about all of the post about you just bought your hunting tags and you're proud that you just funded a biologist to be able to study wildlife in your state, post about the food that you got from that deer or that turkey, or how you fed your kids and how your kids got to learn about, this animal that you took, and you talked about how they used the spurs to fight in the spring, and like whatever it is, to be able to educate your kids, to talk about how being out in nature gives you a chance to put your phone down and take those pretty scenery photos and actually share those. There's so many opportunities for this stuff that we just don't do very well. And literally by design, I mean, the foundation of, you've probably seen the time logs on GoWild. Mm-hmm. A lot of the goal out of the time log was to get people to learn to tell the rest of the story, to share the hunting prep and the scouting and the times that you go hunting and didn't come back with anything. Because I don't know about you, man, but on a good deer season, I'll get out 20 plus times, and that's not full days. A lot of times that's 3 or 4 hour sits. I'll usually, late October through November, I'll start doing some full day sits, but 20 plus times, and I'm successful one of those times. So, that is fractional of my hunting experience is mostly not killing stuff. So, we have to do a better job of telling the whole story.
Yeah, I'm with you, and you bring up such good. I mean, there's so many good points that you're bringing up that, I used to. I mean, I was an avid deer hunter. I used to love to bow hunt. That was my thing. And then when I got into the hounds, that switch because I couldn't hunt all night because I was coon hunting, competition coon hunting, running the Purina circuit, doing things like that, and I couldn't do both and do it both successfully. So I had to give up one. So I give up the bow hunting and deer hunting pretty much. But now, and it's kind of funny you say that, it was probably about 2016. I'd kill a deer here and there throughout those years from the early 2000s until then. But in 2016, I decided that I was going to start killing some deer to feed the family, to cut back on the grocery bill. So the kids know that when we take an animal, we take it to provide for ourselves. That's it. Nothing less, nothing more. We don't overtake. I don't trophy hunt like I used to. I'm more about, putting food in the freezer and having enough food to feed us through the coming year. Yep. Now, I'm not going to say I would pass up a big buck, and last year I found a really nice deer that I pursued, but I didn't get him. And I feel like you're right. We should tell those stories, just like the hound hunting. I mean, guys just don't. I mean, I've got a couple good friends of mine that absolutely despise what I do with the hounds. Mm-hmm. I have begged them to come with me. Put your boots on. Let's go. And they won't. They just see the dogs barking at the bear up a tree. And that's not it at all. I mean, again, the miles, the gas money that I'm spending traveling to and from, my dog food bill per year runs me about $2,200. I don't set that bow up on the shelf and not have to worry about it until October. I don't, the vet bills, the flea and tick med, you talked about ticks. I mean, that's the Lyme's disease is huge in my area. And, I'm spending quite a bit of money on preventative. It's a never ending thing. And a lot of people don't know that. Like you said, we're not educating them. We're just showing them the end result for that. Like I said, that one successful day, and we're not giving them the whole picture. And we as hunters, all types of hunters, should do better than that.
Yep. I agree. So,
you brought up about the timeline. So that's why we got you on here. We want to educate our listeners and me too, because I'm still messing with the app and trying to learn it myself. So, you take a few minutes and walk us through to sign it. All right. So I've signed up for the app, and you can give us all that information. And guys, if you go to the bottom of the show notes that will be posted with this, you can click on the link and it takes you directly to GoWild. So there's your first step. Show notes, click on the link, and then we're there. So Brad, now what do we do?
Yeah, so I'm going to walk you through as if they're downloading the app. We do have a website where you can go and log in. It's a little more limited, with an app, we're able to pack in a little bit more functionality right now. So let's just say that everybody should download the app. And when you onboard onto GoWild, you're going to get asked, like, what do you like to do? Mm-hmm. And those topics you're picking are actually forums. So we decided up front we were going to build a forum-based app, not a friend-based app. A friend-based app's like Facebook. You have to go in and build up your network for it to be valuable. For a platform like ours, you can actually get value out of the community without having to build a following. You can post into hound hunting and connect with other houndsmen without having to have a following. So you can get instantaneous value out of GoWild, and you can ask questions in GoWild, and the app will actually help you connect with the right people. And so first thing first, just take your time and make sure you're picking the topics you really enjoy. But I'm also going to tell you how to update that if you want to see what you're following and what you're not. So we're going to assume you've created an account now. You do get a $10 gift card right now when you sign up. So all the more reason to go and sign up for the app. That'll be loaded onto your account. So when you get there, you're going to see a menu at the bottom.
Yep.
There's your home screen.
Yep. I've got home, trail mix, post, and shop. Those where it's on mine.
Yep. So I'll walk through what each of these do. The first, we'll start in the middle, actually, with trail mix. So this is your feed of everything that you're looking at, like everything you decided to follow. As you scroll through, the app is pulling in content that it thinks you would be interested in based off of the fact that you follow these topics. Now, as you know, we have an algorithm that runs that's basically guessing at what it thinks you would like. But if you wanted to, once you've been on there a while, you can actually just see your friends' content. So if you wanted to dive into your buddies, or you want to see the Houndsman alone, you can actually do that. So you tap Trail Mix at the very top. Mm-hmm. And then you can scroll down, and there's part of it that says My Trails and part of it that says All Trails. So the My Trails are what you're following, and you can tap any of those, and you'll go into just those types of posts, right? So this is, again, a forum of posts.
Yep. So when I clicked on Trail Mix, it come up to the top, and then I clicked on it, and then it says Navigate, and it has Trail Mix. It has My Trails in blue, that's the page I'm on, and then it has All Trails, which is a page I'm not on yet. And it's got, my first thing that pops up says Trail Mix, and then Buddies content. And then I've got recently visited trails that says Houndsman.
Yep. And so when you go to All Trails, you'll see what you follow and don't follow. And you can scroll down. Like, I follow everything. Actually, I just found out I wasn't following muzzle loaders. But I am now, because I like to follow everything. But you can go in and customize your feed. So if you don't want to see anything about, reptiles, which is where people are going to post about their alligators or whatever, you can unfollow that. Or, there's some things that are more of the fringe. It's not necessarily directly hunt and fish. It's things that we've noticed that our audience likes. Like, we have a snow sports. We have state and national parks. We have, tactical and trapping, trap shooting. And so there's other topics that are maybe not directly related to strictly hunt fish. We even have a music, because we were a lot of people sharing about music that they enjoyed, and so we created that forum, and it's popular now. We have a military life, and so there's other things that we try to think of ourselves as a platform for outdoorsmen and women, not necessarily a platform just for outdoors content. There are things in like foraging or cooking that are very related to the audience, but not necessarily in there. So anyways, if you want to go back to your Trail Mix, just hit My Trails again, and you go tap Trail Mix, or you can tap Buddies there at the top, and that's all of the people that you're following.
Yep.
So that's your Trail Mix. Actually, one thing I'll mention on the Trail Mix, that up at the top, you'll also see a search button. That's obvious that people can figure that out. But the radar button at the top is you're near me. So your near me feature, you can go into the Houndsman and hit near me, and you're going to find everybody within, I think it's like 150 miles or your state. So if you go into Houndsman, where we have 125,000 people following Houndsman, you'll be able to connect with people who are in your area. So when I hit near me right now, I've got Tony Collins in Tennessee. I've got Eric Bowling in Kentucky. I've got Chris Powell in Indiana. So these are all people that have recently posted into Houndsman who are in my area. So I can connect with people that are like me in my area. It's really cool.
Yeah, when I hit near me, the only person that's popping up, and I'm scrolling down through here, is a guy by the name of Kendall Wayne. Wayne, W-Y-N-N-E from Virginia. And he's got several posts, but that's the closest. So you're telling me that there's nobody is within 150 miles of me except Kendall? Or nobody's on.
Are you specifically on one trail, or are you on your Trail Mix?
I'm on Trail Mix and Houndsman.
Okay, so if you're in the Houndsman, that means recently nobody's posted near you in that area. But it's going to pull in your state, and then 150 miles. It's 150, it might even be 100. I can't remember exactly.
Gotcha.
So, but all right, we'll go back to the Trail Mix. So you're on the Trail Mix now. We're going to go over to the home button, because this is a totally different concept. And when people tell me it's complicated, this is what I think they're usually talking about, because the concept doesn't exist on other platforms. So you have your profile at the top. You can scroll down and see all your content if you want to see if something's posted, or you can get your share link here. You'll see that under your name. The share link is, you have a custom link that you can send to your friends. So when you hit invite friends, you can a couple different ways. It'll give you a share sheet that kind of shows you all the ways you can share. You can load in your contacts from your device and invite those people, and it's going to send your link. And what happens is, if they download GoWild, you get points for them joining, which is going to be how you unlock those discounts on those Garmins, So sharing the app is a really great way to get some easy points. We have your settings there, which is all the things you would expect. Be able to customize your profile. Add gear. So this is something you asked me about before we started. So I'll talk through this.
Yeah, get me to it. I'm at home.
Okay, if you're on home, under your bio is the add gear.
Gearbox. Yep, add gear. Yep. So I'm here.
Yeah. So your gearbox is basically where people can see what gear you use, and so you can go in here and add gear, and you can search for anything. And we have, believe it or not, we have almost 600,000 products in the system, and it's still not enough. We're adding more all the time. We're going to be at 1 million products by the end of the year. But every now and then you're going to run into something that we don't have. If you search for a product, it's very easy to tap it and add it to your gearbox. It'll ask you, do you want to add this? You can hit my gear or my wish list, which is cool. Things that you want to keep an eye on. But if you don't have it, you can hit custom add or can't find it, add it here. There's a button at the bottom, and then you can type in what that product is, and that lets you, at least if you've got a product that we don't carry that you really want people to know that you're using because you want to connect with people around it, you can still share that you're using that product. So it'll just kind of walk you through a few screens asking you about that product so that you can put it on your profile.
Gotcha.
It is cumbersome. Yeah, I get that. But, because you want to have enough information in there that it's valuable to other people. Otherwise, what's the point? Again, our best way to approach not having to do that is simply adding more brands. It's a little more complicated than people think. You get into some of the nuanced brands that don't have, we have to obviously pull this data from somewhere. And we don't just go scrape websites, So First Light is a brand we don't sell, but people ask about. We're not a retailer for First Light, so we don't have that data. We don't have an affiliate with First Light, so we don't have data. But we're rapidly working to fix that this year. We've got a lot of new technology that's going to be rolling out starting in the next few weeks. That'll start to here by the end of June, we'll have added 40,000 products that we don't have currently.
Nice.
So the pace is getting ready to go a lot faster because the technology is catching up to where we need to be. So I'm pretty excited about, that. And those are going to be products you can purchase. That's not just products that, we have data on. So a couple more things on the home screen. You have your community, and this is all the engagement with people you follow. Sometimes it'll ask you hey, so-and-so has a question because it has identified you as someone who might be able to answer it. So if the algorithm thinks that you could help answer a Houndsman question that was when you post, you can flag a question. I'll talk to that in a second. You might notice that in your community. It could be that someone commented on your post. If someone upvoted it, it's basically a like on Facebook. That just means they hit the little fire icon. You have direct messages, which are obvious what those are, and then you have rewards. So this is a big one. As you post on GoWild and post your trophies, as you leave gear reviews, which I'll tell people, do not go leaving bogus reviews because we will delete you if you do that. But, leave real reviews, leave real content. We love that. If you're doing that and building up points authentically and contributing to the community, that's the biggest thing. People that contribute to the community, we love seeing that. People that come in and try to hack it just to get a discount, we delete their butts real quick. So, on the rewards, though, once you do all this stuff, it's going to load on your reward screen. Right now, I'm looking at, I have $50 off a Deemer box, which is an outdoor.
Get me to there. I've messed it somewhere.
So if you're on the home screen, and you tap the tray, it's like a little tray. Yeah, so it says My Rewards. And then it'll tell you how long until your next reward. Right now, I've got, I'm a few, looks like I'm a few thousand points away from getting a $10 off coupon. But right now in My Rewards, I've got a $50 off a Deemer box, which is an outdoor speaker. It's an awesome deal. So you can save off these speakers that float. Perfect time for summer, right? So
nice.
That's where your rewards will load into. They come in all shapes and sizes. This does change from time to time. We will launch a reward, see how it does. If it gets claimed a lot and it's popular, we'll leave it. If they aren't popular, we change them out. So that's kind of the fun thing too, because a lot of times if we add one, we'll backdate it, or back fulfill it. So if it was for 7,000 points and you're at 10,000, you'll probably unlock that new reward.
Yeah, I've got $100 off a Garmin
Zero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I know that I told you earlier that I've had several of my buddies come to me after they've signed up, and they've got really good discounts off the new TT15X. Which are
there's 10%, 20% off coupons that get unlocked along the way, and if you're smart, you'll use those on those big ticket items.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't go blowing your 20% off on a T-shirt.
Right. Yeah.
So let me pull it back up here. So announcements is in there. That's like announcements from the app. We do a fun trivia thing on there now that's super popular.
Yeah, I see that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then most of this is like got your wish list and stuff, so you can people can kind of scroll through. We won't spend too much more time talking about the home tray.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the post button real quick. So there are multiple. This is going to change soon. We're going to improve this to make it a little less cumbersome. But right now, you can log time, you can enter a trophy, and you can create a post. So log time is essentially saying like I spent 5 hours scouting today, or hunting prep, or there's a bunch of different options in there. Smoking barbecue, whatever it is, and you get points for those, and the points vary depending on what you choose. Again, don't hack the system, guys. We're smarter than that. We're going to find you.
Yeah.
But if you're sharing real stories, we love that. So this is a great way to build points for your time outside. If you just got back from a 3-hour hike, you can share that story. So that's a great way to build up points. Your trophies are your best way. So if you guys have bears that you've treated and freed, you're going to get 500, 600 points at a time a lot of times with those bears.
Nice. So
just keep your stats accurate. Don't go logging a 500-pounder on a bear that's obviously like 100 pounds.
Yeah.
But when you tag gear and all that stuff, that's all going to build up to get you those discounts that everybody wants. So, and then you can create a post. And one thing I want to call out for your audience real quick, when you post, you can tag gear on GoWild, which is really cool, because if you're using a Garmin with your dog and you tag that product, now all that content is starting to build up on that product when you look at it. So when you go to a product, you can actually see that product being used in the field. It's basically like a photo tag on Instagram, but we pull in way more information about it. So we're starting to even pull in like what species something is most used for. So, that if a fishing lure, if you're not sure what it's used for, it might tell you that this is most commonly used for largemouth bass.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the hunting products, a rangefinder might tell you like this is really ideal for this specific species, deer hunting, or this scope is most popular for elk, whatever it is. So pretty cool. And then there's an ask for recommendations. We might be changing that to ask the community soon. But the gist of it will be the same. When you tap that button, the algorithm goes and looks for people to help you. I did this the other day on before a turkey hunt. I hadn't really evening hunted turkeys much, and I posted looking for advice. And this wasn't like I'm going 4 days from now. This was like, hey, I'm leaving in a matter of hours. And in a matter of hours, I had 4 or 5 comments that were paragraph long, and I built my entire hunt off of the tips from that, and it actually worked. I got the bird in. I just totally screwed up. Longer story that I'll be able to share today. But I had a big old Tom come in with 2 hens right to my spot based off what I learned off using that feature. So check that out a little bit. So when you hit the shop tab, you'll have categories, and these are ever changing, and we're building in more all the time. I'll tell you guys, this is a little insider information here. One category that we are working really hard on, and we've been working with the Houndsman XP guys to understand better, is the Houndsman category. A lot of you guys have been joining after my show with Chris and asking for brands. We love that because we are listening. We're going out and trying to find those brands and figure out how we can get them into the system. Mm-hmm. So, keep sharing those tips. I do hope by the end of the year we've got a Houndsman category on here. Right now, we simply don't have enough products for you guys yet. You can go in and search for the Garmins or some things like that. We have some kennels that some of your audience might be interested in, but we're still working on building that out. But you can scroll through categories. You can search products specifically. And if you've ordered anything, you can tap view my orders, and then that's going to pull up all your details of everything you've ever ordered on GoWild, which is pretty nice because you can quickly check on something. You can tap order details, and then that's going to pull up like, if you have questions about your order, you can email our team from there. You can ask for refunds or whatever it is from that page.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm scrolling through it right now and looking at the dog training stuff. So nice. And then I want to go back just one. Let's see, post and where it says log time, and you said you made a comment there. if we come out and we run into an experience or something, that's where you want us to put that.
Yeah, man. Like dog training is one of the things you can do on there. If you guys are out just hunting, I get some requests. People are like, I want it to say elk hunting. And I'm like, well, I can't do that because now the squirrel hunters are going to want it. And then some things we have to keep semi-generic. But there's going to be things I think your group will find in there that are really relevant. The dog training is one of them. Hunting is another one. There's camping, there's bird watching, there's all kinds of stuff in there. Archery practice, there's even beekeeping. So anytime you do any outdoor activity, we want you to come back and share what you learned with the community. So the time log is our incentive for you to do that. You're going to come back and you get to 10,000 points, a couple hundred points at a time, right? So it's not like you're going to unlock all this great stuff immediately, but if you're just, coming back, sharing your story with the community, engaging with the community, over time, you're going to really build up your points through that time log.
I mean, everything you do on this app you're going to earn points.
Yep.
I mean, basically anything you do, you post a trophy, you get points. I mean, I was just looking at mine. I got, 200 for the turkey and 150 for this and 145 for that. I went on gear review, all the gear, and I've tried to be as bluntly honest as I can. Some of the stuff that I use, I really like it. Some of it, there's got some flaws in it, but it's the flaws for the purpose that I'm using it for. It may work better or different for you because you may be using a different application. So I mean, everything on here allows you to gain points, and if you gain points, which builds up discounts to buy those Garmin tracking systems, to buy that, that crate for the dog or fishing poles or whatever it is that they're wanting to buy, it allows you to invest a little time in the community to build points so it benefits you.
Yep, totally.
Yeah. Brad, is there anything else that you think we should add or we skipped over that on the platform? Like I said, I've been fooling with this and just listening to you, I've picked up two different things that I had been skipping out on, and that's the logging time. I'm logging quite a bit of time on the river right now fishing, and I haven't ever put it on there. Like I didn't do it.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
well, the one thing I'll mention is the Houndsman XP guys can go in and log time for listening to podcasts. That is an incredibly popular feature. It's good for you guys because people are advertising your show for you. But if you hit that time log, they can earn points for listening to podcasts. And, one of the coolest things I see out of this is one of our guys who actually started as a member in one of the first 500 people on the platform, Derek Tolles. He was on the platform for years, and we actually hired him. He works with us now in the warehouse, shipping out a lot of the rewards and stuff and handling a lot of the logistics. And Derek shares some incredible content on there, posting about things he learned from shows. So if your guys go in and tap Outdoor Podcast as a time log, it actually pulls up a unique screen where they can look you guys up. You just type in some, and I see, your two feeds here, and they can tap, I'm going to tap into the Sportsman's Empire here, and I can see the last show here, The Truth with Steve Burkholder, and all of the shows are going to pull in right there. So you tap what show you listened to, and it pulls in the artwork and how long it was, and then you can tell people, a little bit about what you thought about the show and share it, and boom, more points, man.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a really good feature because we always want feedback. We always want feedback on what we can do better, what we could change. What the listeners are interested in. So that's a great thing. And I will be taking advantage of that for sure. Just like I'm taking advantage of my 20% off of some of the items that I want to purchase. There was something else you wanted to go over, the Send It, Slam It. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I just wanted to let your all's audience know about Send It Slam. It's an outdoor festival that we are hosting on July 9th. We actually have partnered with Black Rifle Coffee on this. They're the presenting sponsor, and they will be there. So they're going to have a booth set up on the waterfront there with us. And Send It Slam it's a little bit of everything. So it starts off that morning with an optional 3D archery competition. That'll start off at sunrise and run through lunch. And people can shoot solo or they can shoot with the team. You can go in and get your archery ticket at senditslam.com. It's $75 to compete, but that includes the concert. So, that's pretty competitive price to like a tack or something for one shoot, one course,
Mm-hmm.
or one day rather. And you're getting a concert on top of that. So I'll talk about the concert in just a second. But we're going to have Bear Archery is sponsoring this. They're giving away a bow as a part of a prize for the archery competition. If you score a certain amount, you'll be able to get entered to win the bow. We're going to be giving away Garmin Zeros. We're going to have all kinds of prizes over there, probably close to 10 grand worth of prizes. So if anybody's interested in the archery side, that's going to be super fun. You'll shoot about 25 targets, maybe more. We're evaluating that, but at least 25. It's 10 minutes from the Louisville waterfront over at the sporting club at the farm. And so, once you finish, you'll come back over to the Louisville side. And on the Louisville side, around noon, we're going to have a GoWild meetup / I think we're going to end up doing some kind of live podcast recording there before the concert starts. So you can come out, you can meet other GoWild members, you can get lunch. We'll have 5 food trucks there throughout the day. We're going to have 2 craft breweries there, some of Kentucky's finest beer. We'll have 20-some brands set up. We're on pace to have that number right now. One of those is Black Rifle Coffee. Bear Archery will be there. We got a lot of local like leather makers and craftsmen that'll be there too. And the Boy Scouts are going to be there teaching kids marksmanship, so your kids can come and learn to shoot. There'll be BB guns they can shoot. That nonprofit I talked about, Raising Outdoors, is going to be there teaching kids archery, so they can come and get free lessons from either one of those. The concert will kick off at 2. It starts with Dalton Mills and then Dave Shoemaker. These 2 guys are guys I know from my hometown. They both live in Middlesboro, Kentucky. They're both amazing songwriters who are really getting into the festival circuit. Then we move into Abby Hamilton, who is an amazing songwriter. She's coming out of Kentucky right now, and you're not going to want to miss Abby. She is going to be, next year, we won't even be able to afford Abby to get her at this thing. I'm telling you, she's going to be the next big thing out of Kentucky. Justin Wells is playing, and if you guys like Chris Stapleton, you will love Justin Wells. This dude is amazing. He's a longtime Kentucky songwriter. He's really well known in this region and respected by other musicians. He's played with a ton of big name bands and really has been on the music scene for a long time. And then the night will close down with Cole Chaney and Wolfpen Branch, which is his band that he's playing with. Mm-hmm. Cole Chaney, for anybody that's really into like Tyler Childers or Sturgill Simpson, Chris Stapleton, Zach Bryan, those kind of guys are going to love Cole Chaney. Actually Sunday Best is a group that a lot of people know. Cole kind of came up as being mentored by got an alarm going off. Cole came up being mentored by some of these guys from Sunday Best, Nick Jamerson, who's a friend of mine. So Cole Chaney's going to blow the doors off the place at the end of the night. So come out. It's going to be fun. You will not regret it. Tickets for the concert alone start at $30. $5 of that goes to Raising Outdoors. It's a fundraiser too. And then $5 of the archery tickets will also go to Raising Outdoors. We're hoping to raise 10 grand for Raising Outdoors to be able to do a full camp for them. So hopefully we can make that happen. And then there's a VIP ticket that's available as well, and that's going to get you into the VIP tent where you can kind of get out of the sun a little bit. You got a private bar. You can go get canned beer over there. You have a special section of the up front you can sit at. So those tickets are $55, which is worth it for the concert poster alone. We'll be releasing the concert poster after Memorial Day, and it's going to be one you want for sure to remember this event. And
when is this taking place? Did you tell us the date?
July 9th. Yep, it's July 9th, so the weekend after July 4th. We have, from what I've seen, the biggest concert going on in Louisville that weekend. Louisville is an awesome town to do a weekend trip. This is going to be a very family-friendly event, first of all. So if you got kids 12 and under get in free. 12 and under is free to the concert. And then, I'll just tell your audience now, if they use code BUDDY5, they can save $5 off any ticket. So, that's a nice little tip there to save you a few bucks if you're buying some tickets for your teenagers and your spouse. But Louisville in itself is one of the best food towns in the country. And yes. I'm not saying that just because I live here. Chicago Magazine, Southern Living, all these food magazines routinely identify Louisville as one of the best places to eat. I tell you what, only New Orleans has ever competed for me in terms of food. When I travel, I'm usually disappointed. We'll go to Vegas for SHOT Show. and we'll blow. We went big one night and spent like $400 at a steakhouse, because that's very easy to do in Vegas. And I'm telling you, man, it's not as good as Louisville. Louisville is just the best place in the world to come eat. If you got kids, we got tons of stuff to do here for kids. We got a lot of these things listed at senditslam.com. We've got hotels listed there. You can make a very affordable vacation out of this trip, and it's going to be 5 hours. Like, if you're within 5 hour drive, it's worth it. If you're not within 5 hours, I think it's still worth it. But, I understand that it starts to become a little bit bigger of a commitment. But it's an awesome weekend town, man. And I don't even have to mention, if you're a bourbon drinker,
that's right.
98% of the world's bourbon comes from an hour drive of Louisville. So you could really spend that Sunday going to these distillery tours, and you could see 3 of them in one day. It's really cool.
Yeah, I've been to 2 or 3 canine seminars in Louisville, and we enjoy the food. And you're right. We've taken several of those tours and stuff. It's a good place. It's a good environment. I encourage anybody that can go should go. That'd be a good weekend trip.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Brad, I really appreciate you taking the time to break some of this down. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Like I said, we are glad to be partners with you guys for the time being, and hopefully this relationship just continues to grow. So, at the end of every podcast, we leave it with a saying. And Brad, I hope you find your way to teach, train, and learn.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right.